At my wedding reception, my aunt suddenly stood up and shouted, "This marriage is a joke. He should have married my daughter." My husband just smiled and said, "Then you're really going to love what's next." Everyone watched in shock as the wedding planner made an announcement. I never expected my wedding day to turn into a dramatic revenge story, but here we are. Let me explain. My Aunt Sandra has always been a difficult person. If being selfish was a competition, she'd win the crown. She believes the world owes her everything, including, apparently, my husband. Her daughter, Lisa, is her favorite. Sandra raised her to believe she was the best at everything and deserved whatever she wanted, no matter who she had to hurt. Lisa grew up thinking any man she liked should instantly fall for her. So, when I got engaged to my now husband, Mark, Sandra lost it. For some background, Lisa and Mark briefly dated in college, but it didn't last long. He broke up with her because they had nothing in common, and she didn't take it well. Sandra, however, acted like Lisa had been robbed of her perfect love story. When Mark and I got together years later, Sandra treated it like I had stolen Lisa's future. At every family gathering, she made rude comments like, "Funny how things turn out. Lisa and Mark always looked perfect together," or, "Some people don't realize their second choice." I ignored her because I loved Mark and refused to let her ruin things, but she wasn't about to give up. On my wedding day, I could already tell Sandra was angry. She sat at her table, gripping her wine glass so tightly I thought it might break. Lisa, next to her, was pretending to be sad, big eyes, little sniffles, glancing at Mark like he was her lost love instead of the guy who broke up with her. The ceremony went perfectly, too perfectly. Looking back, it was the calm before the storm. At the reception, everyone was laughing and having a great time. I started to relax, thinking I had gotten through the day without any drama. But just as Mark and I stood up to thank our guests, Sandra stood up too. Then, right in front of everyone, she yelled, "This marriage is a joke. He should have married my daughter." The whole room went silent. My stomach dropped. My mom turned red with anger. My dad looked ready to throw something, and Lisa sat there pretending to be embarrassed, while clearly enjoying the moment. Mark? He just smiled, not awkwardly, not nervously, he smirked, like he had been waiting for this. Then he looked straight at Sandra and said, "Then you're really going to love what's about to happen." She froze. Everyone did. The wedding planner, who had been standing quietly, suddenly stepped forward with a microphone. She cleared her throat and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue, we have a special presentation from the groom." I turned to Mark, confused. This wasn't part of the plan, but when I saw the look in his eyes, I knew something big was coming. The lights dimmed, a projector screen rolled down, and a video started playing. The first clip? A recording of Sandra on a phone call, laughing. "I don't care how it happens, I just want her humiliated. If Lisa can't have him, then no one can." The entire room gasped. My heart pounded. The video continued, more recordings, screenshots of texts, emails, and voicemails. Turns out, Sandra had been busy. She had tried to cancel my wedding dress order, bribed the florist to ruin my bouquet, and even called the venue pretending to be me to change the wedding date. The worst part? She had offered Mark $50,000 to leave me at the altar and humiliate me in front of everyone. The room exploded into chaos. My mother shook with rage. My father looked ready to fight. And Sandra? She had gone pale. Lisa, sitting beside her, looked just as horrified. Mark stayed calm. He turned to Lisa and said, "Oh, don't worry, Lisa, you're in the next part." A new video played, screen recordings of Lisa's messages to Mark. "Lisa, I know you still think about me. We were meant to be. Lisa, leave her. Come to me. I'll make it worth your while. Lisa, don't marry her. You'll regret it." Then, the final clip, a voice recording. Lisa crying on the phone, "She doesn't deserve you. I should be the one in that dress. If you don't leave her, I'll make sure she never has a happy marriage. I'll ruin her." Silence. Complete silence. Lisa's fiancé, who had been sitting quietly, stood up and walked out without a word. Sandra tried to say something, but my dad stood up, pointed at the door, and said, "Get out." She hesitated. "Now." And just like that, Sandra and Lisa were kicked out of my wedding. But the revenge wasn't over yet. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. My phone was blowing up with texts, missed calls, and social media notifications. While I had been enjoying my first night as a married woman, Sandra and Lisa had lost it. Sandra had gone on Facebook, ranting, "I can't believe my own family betrayed me after everything I've done for them. My niece is a manipulative, backstabbing snake who stole my daughter's future. That wedding was a sham. Mark doesn't love her, he's being tricked. Everyone knows Lisa was his true love, but money and lies won in the end. They humiliated us, but karma is coming for them." The comments section? Oh, it was brutal. People roasted Sandra left and right, family, friends, even my mom. My mom, you tried to ruin your own niece's wedding? You're an embarrassment, Sandra. Maybe if you raised your daughter to be a decent person instead of an entitled brat, this wouldn't have happened. Random wedding guest, ma'am. You screamed like a lunatic in the middle of their reception. You embarrassed yourself. Then Lisa tried to save herself. She posted a long, pitiful message acting like the victim. Lisa, I had no idea what my mom was doing. I would never do something like that. This was all a misunderstanding, right? A misunderstanding? Funny, since I had video proof of her begging my husband to leave me. Her fiancé, well, ex-fiancé now, wasn't buying it either. He left one brutal comment before blocking her. Ex-fiancé, I hope lying was worth losing everything. The real damage begins now. And that's when everything fell apart for them. First, Lisa lost her fiancé, but that was just the beginning. His parents had put a down payment on a house as a wedding gift. Now, they demanded Lisa pay back every cent they had spent on the wedding, dress, venue, caterer, everything. And Lisa? She didn't have the money, so she ran to Sandra. But Sandra was broke, because the same day she had her Facebook meltdown, she got fired. She had worked at the same company for 15 years, but her boss's wife had been at my wedding. She saw everything, and when she told her husband, he decided to dig deeper. Turns out, Sandra had a long history of bullying younger female employees. Complaints had been filed, but nothing had ever been done, until now. She was fired on the spot. No severance, no sympathy, just gone. Lisa was spiraling. Her fiancé was gone. Her wedding was cancelled. Her mom was jobless. And then, the worst part, her friends abandoned her. The same girls who used to worship her? Gone. Why? Because Lisa had borrowed money from multiple friends, promising to pay them back after her wedding. But now? No wedding, no rich husband, no money. She was completely screwed. And just when I thought they would finally disappear, Lisa showed up. At my house. Sobbing. Begging to be let in. And that's when things got really crazy. When I saw the envelope on my doorstep, I thought it was a joke. Lisa was suing me, for what, you ask? Emotional distress, defamation, and public humiliation. I laughed so hard I nearly choked. The woman who got herself exposed at my wedding was now trying to play the victim in court. Unbelievable. Mark, ever the strategist, took one look at the legal papers and smirked. Mark, oh, she just made the biggest mistake of her life. Because here's the thing, we had proof, screenshots, recordings, video footage, witnesses. Lisa wasn't just going to lose, she was about to be destroyed. A month later, we were in a small courtroom. Lisa and Sandra sat at their table, Sandra whispering furiously to their lawyer while Lisa wiped fake tears. Her attorney stood up and cleared his throat. Lisa's lawyer, Your Honor, my client has suffered immense psychological distress due to the actions of the defendants. She was cruelly humiliated in front of hundreds of people, lost her engagement, and has faced social exile as a result. We seek damages for this unnecessary and targeted attack. I bit my tongue to keep from laughing. Unnecessary and targeted attack? She literally tried to steal my husband. Then, my lawyer stood up. My lawyer, Your Honor, I'd like to introduce Exhibit A. The screen lit up, and we played the recordings. Lisa's text messages to Mark, her voicemails, begging him to leave me, her own voice saying, she doesn't deserve you, I'll ruin her. The courtroom was silent. Then came Exhibit B, the emails. Sandra's texts bribing vendors to ruin my wedding, Lisa's messages mocking me behind my back. By the time the final clip played, the one where Lisa threatened to destroy my marriage, her lawyer looked like he wanted to disappear. The judge adjusted his glasses, turned to Lisa, and asked, Miss Carter, do you have any response to this? Lisa's lip quivered. Lisa, I was emotional. That doesn't mean. Judge, you threatened the defendant's marriage. He interrupted. You attempted to interfere with her wedding and engaged in deceptive and manipulative behavior. Then, Sandra lost it. She stood up, slamming her hands on the table. Sandra, this is a setup. She edited those clips. This is all fake. The judge banged his gavel. Judge, sit down. Miss Carter, one more outburst, and you'll be removed. Lisa buried her face in her hands. She knew it was over. The case was dismissed immediately. Not only that, but Lisa was ordered to pay our legal fees, which, as you can imagine, was a lot. And guess what? She didn't have the money. So, she had to sell everything, her car, gone, the designer bags she used to flaunt, sold. She even tried moving in with a friend, but surprise, none of them wanted anything to do with her anymore. Karma? Served perfectly. Sandra completely lost it. She started calling relatives, begging for money, playing the victim, claiming we ruined Lisa's life. Nobody bought it. My mom, always savage, told her, Lisa ruined her own life, and you helped. Eventually, they had to leave town. Lisa moved to a different city, trying to start over, but word followed her. She tried dating, but whenever someone Googled her name, boom, the wedding video, her messages, the lawsuit, it was all there. She became a cautionary tale. 2 years later, I saw her. I was at a cafe, grabbing coffee with a friend, when I noticed her sitting alone in the corner. She looked different, tired, worn out, nothing like the smug, self-absorbed person she used to be. She saw me, and for a second, I thought she might get up and leave, but she just stared at her coffee, shoulders slumped. For a brief moment, I felt something, almost like pity, almost. Then I remembered everything, how she tried to ruin my wedding, my marriage, my happiness, and for what? I walked past her without a word. As I stepped outside into the fresh air, I smiled. Because I won. And she? She lost everything. Looking back, I don't regret anything. Sandra and Lisa got exactly what they deserved. I used to believe karma would handle people like them. But you know what? Sometimes, karma needs a little push.